liftoff of Falcon 9.
Good evening. It is Wednesday, June 3rd, and you are looking at a live view of Falcon 9 as it awaits its 9:25 p.m. Eastern Time launch from Cape Canaveral Space Launch Complex 40 in Florida. Hello from SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California. My name is Jesse Anderson, and I'm a lead manufacturing engineer here at SpaceX. You're watching a live webcast for our 8th Starlink mission and our 9th mission this year. To date, we've launched over 420 Starlink satellites to orbit. As a reminder, Starlink is a constellation of satellites that can provide high-speed, low-latency internet all over the globe, particularly in remote or rural areas where connectivity is limited or completely unavailable. This latest launch comes on the heels of our historical first launch of humans over the weekend. In case you missed it, we'll give you a quick update on that later in the broadcast. At T-minus 9 minutes, all systems are go for an on-time liftoff this evening. And if for any reason there is a hold on the countdown today, we have a backup launch window opportunity tomorrow at 9:04 p.m. Eastern. You're looking at a live view of Falcon 9, our 70-meter two-stage liquid-fueled launch vehicle, getting ready for launch from Space Launch Complex 40, or SLC 40. This booster will be flying for the 5th time today. It previously supported the Telstar 18 Vantage mission, Iridium 8, and the first Starlink mission, as well as the 3rd Starlink mission. The bottom 2/3 of the vehicle is the first stage. You can see the soot markings left over from its last flight. And the first stage accelerates the vehicle through the Earth's atmosphere into space with the help of 9 Merlin engines at the base of the rocket. Today, we will be attempting to recover the first stage for the 5th time, which, if we are successful, would be the first 5th landing of a Falcon 9 booster. Today, we are using our drone ship Just Read the Instructions, which was our very first drone ship, and opposed to our more commonly used drone ship, Of Course I Still Love You, since it was currently occupied by our Demo 2 Falcon 9 booster up until last night from this past weekend's exciting historical launch. Just Read the Instructions is currently stationed about 350 nautical miles northeast of the Cape and about 200 nautical miles east of Charleston. Above the first stage is the second stage, which has a single Merlin vacuum or MVAC engine, which ignites after the first stage separates. The second stage is what will carry the Starlink satellites into an elliptical orbit above the Earth's surface. From there, they will use their propulsion system to move up to their operational altitude of 550 kilometers. And Falcon 9 has been loading propellant since T-minus 35 minutes. And as a reminder, we use a rocket-grade kerosene, or RP1, as our fuel, and super chilled liquid oxygen, or LOX, as our oxidizer to power Falcon 9. And currently, RP1 and LOX are nearly fully loaded on both stages, and LOX will continue to be topped off right until the last minute of the countdown. The stack of 60 satellites is safely enclosed inside of the 17-foot diameter payload fairing, which you can see on your screen. That's that pointed structure at the very top of the rocket. This protects the satellites from the aerothermal heating, aerodynamic loads, and contamination during ascent. But once we reach the vacuum of space, we no longer need them, so we will jettison the fairing as the second stage continues on its journey to orbit. We will be attempting to recover the fairing halves today using our recovery ships Mystery and Mischief. At approximately T plus 40 minutes, the team will perform a poll to confirm if we're all good to make a catch attempt, and weather plays a factor as well as telemetry of the fairing, its altitude, position, and speed. And we were watching some thick clouds earlier, making sure that we are good for weather, just like we did in last week's launch, Demo 2 launch, constantly checking on the weather. But today, we are currently go for weather at T0. So with that, the vehicle, satellites, weather, and range are all looking good for an on-time liftoff. just about 5.5 minutes from now. And as I mentioned at the top of the broadcast, we are coming off an amazing weekend with the SpaceX and NASA teams successfully launching the dads, NASA astronauts Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley, to the International Space Station. Our second demonstration mission, or what we call Demo 2, lifted off from historic Launch Pad 39A at Kennedy Space Center on Saturday, May 30th, and 19 hours later docked with the International Space Station. The mission marks the first time a commercially built spacecraft has launched people to the space station, and the first time in nearly 10 years that the U.S. has launched astronauts into space from U.S. soil. The video that you see on your screen is Bob and Doug floating around in orbit, giving us a tour of their Dragon spacecraft, which they named Endeavour to commemorate the huge efforts made by the SpaceX team, as well as a nod to the first shuttle that they both flew on. Demo 2 is an end-to-end flight test from launch to docking to splashdown. It is the final major milestone for SpaceX's human spaceflight system to be certified by NASA for operational crew missions to and from the International Space Station. While Bob and Doug certainly had the best seats for the Demo 2 launch, they weren't the only ones to try their hand at docking Dragon to the space station. We recently released the same simulation that the astronauts trained on in advance of the Demo 2 mission. Head over to iss-sim.spacex.com to give it a try yourself. That simulation, the displays in Crew Dragon, and a bunch of other really cool projects were developed by SpaceX software engineers. Software engineers at SpaceX get to work across exciting projects that drive our rockets, spacecraft, satellites, and ground systems. If you're interested in helping roll out Starlink to the world or taking humanity to the moon and Mars, send your resume to softwarejobs@spacex.com. We will also be setting up a Reddit Ask Me Anything, or AMA, with our software team in the next week or so stay tuned to our social media accounts for details on that. Once Demo 2 is complete, the SpaceX and NASA teams have reviewed all the data for certification. NASA astronauts Victor Glover, Mike Hopkins, Shannon Walker, and JAXA astronaut Soichi Noguchi have been assigned to fly on Dragon's first 6-month operational mission, which we're calling Crew 1, which is targeted for later this year. We are currently 2.5 minutes from liftoff, and Falcon 9 is now moving into the final stages of the countdown. The first and second stages are both nearly fully loaded with 1 million pounds of kerosene fuel and liquid oxygen. Super chilled liquid oxygen, which as I mentioned earlier is our propellant oxidizer, is what's creating those white clouds that you see around Falcon 9 when it's exposed to the warmer ambient air. You can see that on your screen there. First stage should finish prop loading, actually already has finished prop loading at T-3 minutes, and second stage is coming up on finished prop loading at T-2 minutes. At T-60 seconds, Falcon 9 will be in startup, and that means that the rocket's autonomous internal flight computers have taken over the launch countdown.
Stage 2 lock load is complete.
So with the Starlink payload continuing to be healthy, the F9 teams, Falcon 9 teams are tracking no issues on the rocket. Weather is still looking good, and the range is green for launch. So we are at T-1.5 minutes from liftoff. And again, in about 30 seconds, Falcon 9 will be in startup. What this means is that the vehicle will basically be autonomously making its decision if it will continue with liftoff at T0.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
And there's that call out that Falcon 9 is in startup.
Go for launch.
And at T-45 seconds, there was that call out for go for launch. Again, that was the Falcon 9 rocket making that decision autonomously. Now we are T-30 seconds from liftoff of our Starlink payload tonight. So let's listen in and watch Liftoff.
T-minus 15 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. Liftoff!
Falcon 9 pitching down range.
We are T plus 40 seconds into flight, and Falcon 9 has successfully lifted
Power
off
telemetry
from
nominal.
Pad 40 at Cape Canaveral Air Force Station, carrying our Starlink payload to its targeted drop-off orbit. Moments ago, we did throttle down our engines in preparation for max Q, and that is the maximum aerodynamic pressure, which is the largest
Vehicle
structural
supersonic.
load that the vehicle will see. That's coming up here in a few seconds.
Max Q.
And there's that call out that we have just passed through max Q. In about a minute, we will have 3 events happening back to back. The first of which will be main engine cutoff, or MECO. This is where all 9 M1D engines shut off to slow the vehicle down in preparation for the second event, which is stage separation. Stage separation is where the first stage separates from the second stage, with the first stage starting to make its way back to Earth for landing, and stage 2 continuing on its journey, with the third event called SES-1, or Second Engine Start 1. And that's where the MVAC engine lights up on the second stage and propels the second stage along with the Starlink satellites to its drop-off orbit. We are at T plus 2 minutes and 5 seconds, so we're just about 25 seconds away from those 3 events. Again, that is MECO, stage separation, and SES-1, or Second Engine Start 1.
MECO.
Stage separation confirmed.
And there you can see on your screen, on the left screen, we had main engine cutoff and stage separation. On your right screen is the second stage MVAC engine lighting up, glowing bright red there. And it is a bit dark on the East Coast, but you can see on your left screen that first stage, those grid fins are deploying. And on your right screen, we have fairing deploy coming
Fairing
up here.
separation confirmed.
And there is that confirmation of fairing deploy. Now let's see if those fairing halves can be recovered by our recovery ships, Mystery and Mischief today. Again, we won't have that live. That will happen around T plus 40 minutes, so check in with our social media accounts for updates on those fairing halves. And stage 2 still looking nominal. Again, that is what you see on your right screen. Stage 1 is making its way back.
Acquisition of signal Bermuda.
And as the first stage makes its way back to Earth, it will perform 2 burns, the first of which will be the entry burn, and that is where 3 of the 9 M1D engines reignite, and this helps slow the vehicle down as it re-enters back into the upper part of the Earth's atmosphere. And finally will be the second and final burn is the landing burn, and this is a single engine burn. That's the center E9 engine that reignites and brings the vehicle all the way down, very, very rapidly slows the vehicle down so that it can touch down and land on the drone ship. Again, we are attempting to land the first stage today on Just Read the Instructions, as our Of Course I Still Love You drone ship was occupied with our Demo 2 vehicle from over the weekend up until last night. We are at T plus 5.5 minutes. Stage 2 still looking nominal. And first stage making its way back. That first burn, that entry burn, will be coming up in about a minute from now, around T plus 6 minutes and 45 seconds. And that entry burn will last about 20 seconds long. Again, that is to slow the vehicle down as it re-enters back into the Earth's atmosphere. Stage 2 on your right screen, still on a nominal trajectory. And on your left screen, it is a little bit dark. It is nighttime on the East Coast, but we should see that screen light up with that entry burn, those 3 engines reigniting.
Stage 1 FTS has saved.
Stage 1 entry burn has started.
And there you hear that call out, as well as a visual confirmation that those engines have reignited.
The vehicle continues to follow a nominal trajectory.
And stage 1 entry burn shut down.
And confirmation that the stage 1 entry burn is complete, as well as stage 2 still looking nominal. If you heard that call out. Coming up next is the landing burn around T plus 8.5 minutes, around 8 minutes and 24 seconds. Looks like we lost that live view of the first stage coming down, but that is expected. So hopefully we can get that live view back. Right now,
Stage 1 is transonic.
Right now, what you're seeing on your left screen is the drone ship Just Read the Instructions. Followed very closely after the landing burn and landing of the first stage will be SECO 1, that is second engine cutoff, around T plus 8 minutes and 58 seconds.
Stage 1 landing burn has started.
Terminal guidance.
Landing legs have deployed.
Stage 2 FTS has saved.
And wow, as you saw coming
And
down,
JRTI, we
that
have a
first stage
landed.
Falcon 9.
Landing operators moving to procedure 11.100 on recovery 1 and ECF 9.
Amazing, that first stage booster has landed for the first time, for the 5th time for a Falcon 9 booster. That is amazing. We're waiting for second stage engine cutoff. What an amazing view of that first stage coming down, even though it was dark and night. But those engines lighting up the screen, watching first stage come down, was an amazing view. And we heard a call out of good orbit for second stage.
Acquisition of signal, Newfoundland.
And now that second stage is going to now that second stage is in a good orbit, it's going to coast for a few minutes, and during this time it will start to spin along its central axis, giving these Starlink satellites the momentum that they need to space themselves out over time after they deploy. So we will take a quick break and return back here at T plus 14 minutes. Welcome back to the webcast for Starlink. So far we had an on-time liftoff tonight. Stage 1 successfully separated from Stage 2 and made its way back to land on our drone ship. Just read the instructions, which was the first time a booster has landed for a 5th time in SpaceX history. So very exciting. Stage 2 is still nominal. And now we are coming up on deployment of the Starlink satellites shortly here in about 40 seconds or so. And we firmly believe in the importance of a natural night sky for all of us to enjoy, which is why we have been working with leading astronomers around the world to better understand the specifics of their observations and engineering changes we can make to reduce satellite brightness. One measure we're taking to accomplish this is by adding a deployable visor to the satellite to block sunlight from hitting the brightest parts of the spacecraft. Now let's listen into that call out for payload deploy. And again, the first unit with the sun visor is actually on this payload right here that you see in front of you.
Payload deploy confirmed.
And there is that confirmation. We got a live view as it was deploying from the vehicle. Those Starlink satellites are making their way, separating from second stage right in front of you right now. Shortly, they will deploy their solar array, and over the next few days and weeks, they will distance themselves from each other and use their onboard ion thrusters to make their way to their operational orbit. And also, just to note, tomorrow is June 4th. That was actually the anniversary of our first Falcon flight. 10-year anniversary of our first flight, so very exciting time. First Falcon 9 flight, so very, very exciting times. And that brings our webcast to a close. Follow our website and social media platforms for updates on our next missions and milestones. And as the work goes on to build a better, more exciting future, please stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you at the next launch.